Hi guys, like to welcome you guys back to Read with Melanin. Why do I always do that? Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of my reading recap. Like I said in the previous video, I have been gone, so I do want to tell y'all what I've been reading. And I know the first video y'all were like, what? Romance? Like, why are all these books about romance? I know, I got you. So let's get into the books that I read that I was super excited for. So in April, I actually went to Kindred Stories for Annie Davenport's second come back and chat about her book series, The Blood Trials, because The Blood Gift came out. And so obviously had to go back and support not only Kindred Stories, but Annie Davenport. And so the first book that I want to talk about today is The Blood Gift. So The Blood Gift is a sequel to The Blood Trials. So how do I put this? So I felt like in the first book of The Blood Trials, positives, Akenna. I love Akenna as a character. I love Akenna's brashness. I loved Akenna's cockiness. I loved everything about that. The one thing that got on my nerves with Akenna in the second book is her obsession with Reed's blue eyes and all the synonyms to describe his blue eyes. It was so annoying. Cobalt, ocean, blue, sapphire. I was like, girl, we get it. You're whipped by Reed. It's fine. I loved the world building. I think we got... Well, actually, no, because I think in the first book we got a lot of world building too. But to me, I felt like the world building in this one was really giving me like a beautiful like whole picture to look at. But there are a couple of parts of the story that I personally think fell flat. We were introduced to a character in the beginning of the book that had no say-so, nothing of value to the story or anything, which left me very confused because I'm like, why give me a character like that and then like that character means nothing basically for the rest of the story. I also wanted to learn more about their whole pantheon system, and I wanted to learn more about the magic system, but we got a little bit of that, but we didn't get it enough. Like, I wanted more. I think that's basically what it is. It's like if Annie Davenport wanted to make a novella that was just like the origin story of the gods or something, I would read that, because I think when you build stories that are so heavily, that have such a serious pantheon god structure, I think that there has to be a moment where we understand the connection between them. Like, I want to understand who the gods are in reference to the people, to understand why these said people worship or don't worship them, if that makes sense. I'm also just genuinely confused about Akenna's father. I'm not going to put spoilers in there. I don't understand at all. I just don't. I don't understand Akenna's mom. I feel like we learned a couple of things about Akenna's grandfather, but all in all, just overall, I'm left partially unsatisfied with the book. I think that's just the best and honest way that I can say it. Like, I'm not fully satisfied with the book. And because I understand that it was sold as a duology and not a trilogy, I feel like I should have had more closure, or it should have given me a more rounded conclusion, considering that it was supposed to be a duology from the start. Now, I understand that we might want it to be a trilogy, but I believe that if you're like, I wanted it to be more closure. I guess that's the best way to put it. Another sequel that I read is The Golden Frog Games by Claribel A. Ortega. I talked about the first book before. So this is the first book, and then this is the second book. And I loved it. So I actually really like Claribel Ortega's writing. I love her middle grade series. I think they're really cute, and they give me a vibe, that's the best way to put it. But what I really liked about this one, again, I got more of the world of this particular series. I got more understanding of the worlds. We got a little bit more talks about like the different types of magic. And we also got some more introductions to characters. It was also a bit of a mystery in here, which I'm mad at myself because I thought that I knew who was doing things, but I was so wrong. But I actually think that's like a testament to Clarabelle's writing for this one, because even though it's a middle grade, I was thoroughly engaged. She left me on a real massive cliffhanger, which I'm real upset about, but it does have me like ready for the third book. And again, I am really loving a lot of middle grade series. I truly believe like right now middle grade fantasy is beating out everyone else in terms of giving us creative stories that I think are also engaging and also giving us good characters, even though they're middle grade. So that's just my opinion, obviously. But yeah. So if you know me, especially know me from a reading standpoint, then you know that I love pirates. You know that I especially love female pirates. So obviously The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarahi was obviously a book on my most anticipated reading list that I never shared with you guys, because every time I share my most anticipated reading for the next year, those books are always a bust. And I was so determined that that would not happen with this book. So I got this book. Ironically, I guess the best way to put it is I knew that this was going to be a fairy loot book. I just knew it. Like, there are certain books that you know when they're coming out, you know that they're going to be fairy loot or Owlcrate or whatever. So I purposely did not buy this book because I knew that I was getting like a gorgeous cover in the fairy loot. However, one of my friends knew I love female pirates and gifted me the book. So I have 2 copies somewhere around here. Either way, Amina, I loved this book so much. So, hold on. It is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarahi by S.H. Char. I never say her name right. Either way, look, I'm now going to read The City of Brass. I'm going to read everything that this author has written. I loved this book so much. I loved the breaking of the fourth wall in the book, but it was like Amina was talking to me, telling me what had happened, but also she was talking to someone else in the story. I don't know. I felt very engrossed in the story the entire time. I listened to it via audiobook because I go back into the office now. Well, at the time that I read this book, I was at home 100% because I could not walk. But I wanted to read this book, so I read this book a lot. And then when I was doing other things like trying to cook with one arm type situation, I listened to the audiobook. There was a point in time where I listened strictly to the audiobook. The narrator of the audiobook is absolute perfection. I cannot stress enough how much I loved this book. I did look it up online. This is the first book of a series. So basically, take my money is all I can say. While I would love to have an arc, I know that I don't have time to give an arc what it deserves. So I'll just be waiting for the next book to come out. But I'm super excited. If you like pirates, if you like adventure, if you like strong female characters that are not traditional, you're gonna love this book. I recommend it. 5 stars, 10 out of 10. Loved it. So another book that I read is Heart of a Sun Warrior. Again, I think I talked about this before, but just in case I didn't. Heart of a Sun Warrior is the sequel to Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which was one of my top reads of last year. So obviously this book coming out within the same year literally sent me into a tizzy, because the first book was such a surprise and so good. The second book I felt was a little too long. I think it fell into that duology category where like it needed to be, because it's a thick book, and I'm like, I don't feel like it needed to be that thick. I do feel like we had a lot of fluff to get through. We spent a lot of time in the main character's mind, and there was a lot of telling rather than showing. There were those kind of moments in the book, and that's kind of how I also felt about Blood Gift too. There was a lot of telling from like in the mind of the main character versus showing. However, I felt like I was on edge a lot for this second book, versus the first book. I wasn't on edge. It's just that like I was just like, dang girl, why are you so naive? Why are you so dumb? Whereas in this book, it's like, oh my God, like, can y'all catch a break? Like, what's gonna happen next? That was the energy that I was on. They really pulled at my thug heartstrings. Like the thug tears kind of almost got me at one point, but I held it together. I do like the series. I am very happy with the series, and I do have both Fairy Loot editions because they are absolutely stunning. So yeah, this is another book that I enjoyed. It is a sequel, and it is a good sequel. So I feel like I've talked about this book plenty of times. It is We Are the Origin by C.M. Lockhart. Again, I cannot remember which books I talked about. My battery is dying. Please hold. Okay, sorry about that, guys. It started storming. We don't have any lights in here. So we're gonna try to keep going. What was I talking about? Oh, okay. So I think I was talking about We Are the Origin by C.M. Lockhart, which I feel like I've talked about a bunch of times, but also if you guys want to see the Black Prose Club discussions about that, I will make sure to leave a link down below for you guys to check it out. But it was a very enjoyable book for me. I loved the Black Girl Magic. I loved Brandy's character. If I could like figure out the best way to cosplay her in a bigger girl body, that would be a mood for me, honestly. Again, it was one of those books where I'm like, especially after getting a chance to talk to the author herself, I'm looking forward to the sequel. It was one of those reads where I was just really, really happy. I also really recommend the audiobook on this one. This one gives like a ethereal read when the gods are involved. Oh, and I also love the gods of We Are the Origin. I feel like it's like I connected with them. Like I got enough information to actually connect with them. So I really, really liked that part. But yes, and also again, I really enjoy Brandy as the main character, and I enjoy her bae. We all need one of him in our lives, I personally believe. So yeah. The next one I want to talk about is the series finale, Tarina Barron's Middle Grade, Maya and the Lord of Shadows. Okay, so Maya and the Dark, I think was the first book. I don't remember. Either way, this is the third book in the series, and I think it was a nice like closure, but I didn't like it as much as I loved the first two. I kind of felt like this one, though the stakes were supposed to be higher, it seemed a little easier for Maya, which I guess kind of makes sense considering that what she's went through for the first two books and then to this one, there she should have had some type of growth. So now that I'm thinking about it, I might retract that statement. I still think that this was the weaker one of the three, but again, the premise of this book is that we learn that Maya's father has a secret, and Maya's father is actually kidnapped, and she had to go find him, where she learns a whole bunch of other secrets that led to the rest of the series. I do not want to spoil this series. I do think this is one that even if you have young kids, this is a great series to read with them. Or if you just be like me and want to just read it, I think that would work very well too. The next book that I read is another sequel. Man, I've been reading a lot of sequels. It's Cece Rios and The King of Fear. If you guys remember, I talked about Cece Rios in the Desert of Souls last year. So the sequel was this one. And the premise of this one is that she actually ends up going to the other realm and having to deal with some ramifications that happened from the first book to the second book. And I really enjoyed this one. Again, I feel like middle grade fantasy is giving me variety. This one, I don't actually recall right now which culture it focuses on, but I enjoyed it. Is there a third book? I'm not sure, but I think I gave this one like a 3.5 or 4 stars, I think. It held me. I ended up listening to the audiobook after a while because I just didn't feel like picking up the book anymore. But I actually like the audiobook narrator for this one. So I do think like if you are one of those people that likes the hybrid read, I think this is a good hybrid read that you would enjoy. So there's that. So the next 5 books plus the graphic novels is obviously a reread, because when I get overwhelmed or things like that, I always go back to things that I love, and it was Lunar Chronicles again to make me feel better. I would love this as an animated series on like Disney XD. Like the creator of like the Owl House or something, like Dana, could really do some real good work on a series like the Lunar Chronicles. Like I would love the animators that did the last final fight scene for Owl House to do like a final fight scene at the end where it's Lavana and everybody else. That would be so dope. Also, if you've never watched Owl House on Disney Plus, I started watching Owl House during COVID, and so glad that I did, but those last 3 episodes wrecked me. That last episode, I was distraught. It was a happy distraught, but I was distraught. And like, it's so much so that like I have been looking for Owl House merch, and I want like a hoodie or like a wanted poster of Ida. I want something like that here in the library. So if you know like an Etsy shop person or anybody that does Owl House merch, please leave me a comment down below, because when I tell you I'm an Owl House, this house is an Owl House stan. This is an Avatar stan house. Like, we love those things here. But for specifically Owl House, because Disney took it away from us too soon, I just want something, or even like a picture of King. I don't know, anything would be so cute, because we're gonna officially start working on the gallery wall for the library. If you guys want to see a video for that on this channel, please let me know. I'll definitely do that, because half this library is like a plant haven and the other half is like fairy lights and, you know, Kirby. So yeah, that is actually all of the books for part 2. I think this is really, it's ironic that I talked about a lot of sequels in part 2. So did you read any sequels so far this year? What rereads have you been going to? What are your comfort reads? Let me know down below in the comments section. And until part 3, guys, bye.